think I finally recovered now from that crazy National League final last Sunday between Oldham and Southend. What a fantastic day that was. But with that, the season is officially over. So it's time for my early predictions for the 2025-26 season. I'm going to start with the Premier League tonight, and then I'm going to work my way down, I think, to the National League North. I do follow a lot of National League North because I'm a Hereford supporter. I probably don't know enough about the National League South to put a prediction together that's going to make any sort of sense unless I look into it in the summer. I'm going to do these predictions now, and then I'm probably going to redo them after the transfer window because I imagine a lot is going to change. So I'm going to start with the Premier League, and I'm going to go through the teams in alphabetical order. So I'm going to start with Arsenal and where I think they're going to finish. So Arsenal have been close. They finished second for 3 seasons in a row. This season, not much of a title challenge. The league was gone with probably a couple of months to go in the season. They weren't catching Liverpool. I think whether Arsenal win the league or not has a lot to do whether they sign Gyökeres or not. I think I've seen that he's open to a move to Manchester United. I think he is probably more likely to go to Arsenal, and they are almost a complete side. They just need someone to put the ball in the net, so I think the difference for them is going to be Gyökeres. And so I'm going to say Arsenal win the title. 4th time lucky, Arsenal win the title. So then moving on to Aston Villa, and they narrowly missed out on the Champions League on the final day, so they'll be playing in the Europa League. I think Villa's downfall was the fact that they didn't seem to be able to pick up points in the Premier League after they'd played in Europe. They dropped so many silly points after European nights. I think they might have the same issue playing in the Europa League, and I think they're probably going to think they can win the Europa League, so they'll probably focus on that. Again, a lot depends on whether England gets the 5th Champions League place again. But I think Villa will miss out either way. I'm going to put Villa 6th again. So moving on, we've got Arsenal 1st, Villa 6th. That brings us to Bournemouth. And I think Bournemouth, for the neutral, are probably one of the most likeable sides in the Premier League. And what a season they had. They beat Manchester City, they beat Arsenal at home, they outplayed Arsenal on that day. So they are so good at home. They dropped off a little bit towards the end of the season, and I think they're probably going to have another good season. So a lot depends on who they lose, who they bring in. Haven't really heard a lot about Bournemouth in the transfer window yet. So I'm going to put Bournemouth 9th. So that brings us to Brentford, and there's been a lot of activity at Brentford with Mbeumo looking like he's going to go to potentially Manchester United. I think even if Brentford lose several of their key players, I think even if they lose most of the squad, I think Thomas Frank will find a way to keep them in the Premier League, and not just keep them in it, but keep them in it comfortably. So I'm going to put Brentford 11th. And then we've got Brighton. Again, they're another club that always seems to do well in the Premier League. They'll lose players every season. They'll have solid season every year. I think they're going to have a similar year to this season. They're probably just going to miss out on the European places again. So I'm going to say Brighton 8th. And that brings us to Burnley, newly promoted Burnley. Can they stay up this time? I can't see any way that Burnley stay in the Premier League. I think the only joy they're going to have is against the other promoted clubs. They'll probably take points off Sunderland and Leeds. I think they'll either be 19th or 20th. I actually think Sunderland are going to put up more of a fight than Burnley. So I think Burnley go straight back down at the bottom. But I think points-wise, the next season's bottom 3 will be a lot better than the season just gone. They'll probably still not make it to 30 points. But so Burnley bottom. So after Burnley, we've got Chelsea. and Chelsea snuck into the Champions League on the final day. I was at the City Ground watching Chelsea win. Obviously, they had to rely on other results, which did go their way. So Chelsea will be back in the Champions League. I think Chelsea will have to rely on England getting the 5th Champions League place. I think Arsenal, City, Liverpool and Newcastle are going to be quite far ahead of the rest. I think Chelsea will probably be the best of the rest, so I'm going to put Chelsea in 5th. But I don't think they'll do very well in the Champions League. I've just got a feeling they're going to have a nightmare season in Europe. So then Crystal Palace. Do we put Palace anywhere but 12th? I think that's their nailed on position, isn't it? Obviously they won the FA Cup. Again, I was at the FA Cup final to watch them win that, and I think Glasner salvaged the season after they didn't win a game until October. What a great achievement that was for Palace, winning their first silverware. I'd be stupid not to put Palace 12th because that's where they finished. So Crystal Palace 12th. So Everton going to their new stadium, leaving Goodison Park behind. They'll want to make a good start to the season, so it'll be interesting to see who the first team to play there will be. I don't think they're going to have a very good season. I think they could get drawn into a relegation fight, with the bottom 3 being a lot stronger this season than last. But again, Everton, they find a way to stay up. So Everton will be 15th. They'll probably spend long periods of the season in the relegation battle. They'll put together a winning run in late March or early April, and they'll be safe. So Everton 15th. Next up is my local side in the Premier League, Nottingham Forest. I've seen them 5 times this season, and I don't think I actually saw Forest at their best. I saw them in the FA Cup. Although they won 3 games, they won them all on penalties, then lost to City at Wembley. I watched them lose to Chelsea at the City Ground. I think Forest are going to drop off a little bit. I don't think it's going to be drastic. I just don't think Forest are going to be able to compete at the level they were this season. I think this season was unreal for Nottingham Forest, and I think Nuno Santo should have been voted Premier League manager of the season. So I think Forest will drop off. I don't think they'll get into the European places. I think they're going to have to rely on winning that Conference League, which is easily doable. I'm going to put Forest in the top half, but only just. I think they'll be 10th, which will still be a fantastic season. I don't think any Forest fan would refuse that. So then we go Fulham, which is a funny one. They can be really hit or miss. I think they're going to be safe. I think they're going to be mid-table. I don't think they're going to push for the European places because I think the competition is going to be a lot stronger this season. But I don't think they'll be anywhere near the relegation zone. So I'm going to put Fulham just below Palace in 13th. And then Leeds. So Leeds United is going to be an interesting one next season. I think they're going to spend big in order to try and stay in the Premier League. And at first glance, Leeds, yeah, they might stay up. But then you think, at the expense of who? Who do they replace in the Premier League? And it's difficult to see them taking anyone else's place. I think the most vulnerable of the other sides is going to be Wolves. They've lost 8-0 to Manchester City. I believe that one's gone through. And Matheus Cunha to Manchester United. So they could lose a lot of key players this summer. Will they still be strong enough to stay in the Premier League, though? We've seen the 3 promoted teams go straight back down in both of the last 2 seasons. I think Leeds will make more of a fight of it. And I really want one of the 3 to stay up. I think it's good for the league if they do. I just think that final place is going to be between Leeds and Wolves, maybe West Ham as well. I can't see any of the established Premier League teams going back down. I think Leeds will put up a good fight, but I think they'll probably go down, maybe on the final day even. So Leeds will be 18th. And then the champions Liverpool. They won the league fairly comfortably this season. No real challenges. It'd be interesting to see how Arne Slot's team would have done had Arsenal and Manchester City been playing well. I think if you put them into the year before, the one that Man City won, I don't think Liverpool would have competed. This Liverpool would have competed with those two teams. I do think Arsenal and City are going to be stronger. So I don't think Liverpool will defend their title. I think they'll drop to third because I expect Man City to spend big. So Liverpool third, and that brings us to Manchester City. The drop-off has been insane for Man City. How poor they were. I mean, they still ended up third, but that losing run they went on after winning 4 titles in a row, as much as I'm confident that Pep Guardiola will turn it around, I don't think his squad is going to be as strong as Arsenal's. I think they'll probably overtake Liverpool. I don't think Arsenal are going to run away with the league. I think Man City and Liverpool will put up a fight, but I'm going to put Manchester City second. Arsenal win it by 4 or 5 points maybe. And then Manchester United. Well, they've been dreadful, haven't they? They have been woeful. I think if they have another poor season, they'll lose Amorim. He'll either walk away or he'll get sacked. They look to be busy in the transfer windows. I think United are going to have a really strong season compared to last. They'll be possibly sneaking into the Europa Conference League places. This is assuming they have a good transfer window, because if they don't sign anyone, they're going to be in trouble. No European football at Old Trafford, so there's no distraction. I actually think United will have a strong season. Not by Manchester United standards, but by last year's standards. So I'm going to put Manchester United 7th. And then that brings us to Newcastle. So Newcastle are the one club that I think could break the current top 3. At the moment, we've got Arsenal, City and Liverpool, who have been way ahead of the rest for quite some time now. I think Newcastle will add to those 3 teams. I don't think they're quite there to challenge for the title yet. If they have a good start and if they beat the likes of Arsenal and City early on, we never know. But I don't think Eddie Howe's ready for a title challenge yet. I think there is more silverware to come, and I think it's a matter of time before Newcastle are in the title race regularly. I think Newcastle will be comfortably top 4. I'm not sure how far behind Liverpool they'll be, but I'm going to put Newcastle 4th. And then we've got Tottenham. So they've just sacked Ange Postecoglou. I don't think that was the right call. I think he had to deal with a lot of injuries. He won them the Europa League, and they got into the Champions League, which was the target at the start of the season. So I think that's a mistake. I don't think whoever they bring in is going to improve much. I think Tottenham are going to have another abysmal season. They need to bring in some players. They need to bring in a top quality manager. I don't think they're going to compete in the Champions League. I think they'll do enough to get into the playoff round, because I think there's enough weaker teams in that league that they'll finish above. So I'm going to put Tottenham in 14th. They won't be in a relegation fight, but they won't be in the top half either. Yeah, Tottenham's a funny one. Depends who they get in, really. And then what about Sunderland? So I would love to see Sunderland competing and staying in the Premier League, but they won't. Again, I think Sunderland will probably put up a better fight than last year's 3. But I think they'll be down with several games to go with Burnley. I think they won't be as good as Leeds. They haven't got the resources that Leeds have. So I'm going to put Sunderland 19th. I think them and Burnley will be very close at 19th and 20th. I don't think they'll be anywhere near staying up. So 2 teams left. We've got West Ham and Wolves. And I think if any of the promoted sides are going to stay up, it's going to be at the expense of one of these two clubs. We've got West Ham first, and I just think West Ham are going backwards at the moment. I don't think they'll go down, but I think they will be in a relegation battle. I can see them losing games to the likes of Leeds and Sunderland. If they don't get off to a good start to the season, I think they could be in a lot of trouble. But I think they are better than the three promoted sides. The important thing for them is that they can't lose any of their key players, because I'm not sure who they're going to sign. So I'm putting West Ham 16th, and that leaves Wolves. So that leaves 17th. And as I said when I talked about Leeds, I think if Leeds are going to stay up, it's going to be at the expense of Wolves. Wolves need to recruit, because it looks as though they're going to lose several of their key players. I do just think they're going to be good enough to stay up. And I think we're going to have the same problem, 3 up, 3 down again. So that's my prediction. So we've got Arsenal first, City second, Liverpool third, Newcastle fourth, Chelsea fifth, Villa sixth, Manchester United seventh, Brighton eighth, Bournemouth ninth, Forest 10th, Brentford 11th, of course Crystal Palace are always 12th, Fulham 13th, Tottenham 14th, Everton 15th, we've got West Ham 16th, Wolves staying up on the final day at the expense of Leeds, who are 18th, Sunderland and Burnley adrift, 19th and 20th. So that's my early Premier League prediction. What do you think? Let me know yours in the comments under this video, and I will no doubt make another one closer to the start of the season. So this is the first in my early prediction series. Like I said at the start, I'm going to go to the Championship next and then run through the leagues. I think Leagues 1 and 2 are going to be great this season. And like I said, I think I'm going to go as far as the National League North. So thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next one. And I will see you soon.